Everyone has a story. Welcome to In Her Words, a podcast from women in entertainment where female creatives and allies share their stories in their own words.
This is a dedicated space centered on how to harness creativity for inspiring and impactful projects in the ever-changing landscape of entertainment.
I'm Renee Rossi,
I'm Gretchen McCourt.
and this is In Her Words. Today, we're talking to Jennifer Holland. She's an American actress. She's a model, best known as Emilia Harcourt in the DC Extended Universe, starting with The Suicide Squad, and now she is starring in Peacemaker 2. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Jen.
I'm in Atlanta, actually.
Oh, in Atlanta. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Is that home or is that work?
Well, we bought this home for work and it sort of slowly became home in some ways. I mean, it's the house that we have owned the longest, and so for that reason, it feels the most like home. We're just constantly popping around from place to place. This is where we filmed Peacemaker season 2.
Okay.
So, and my husband films here a lot. So yeah, that's it, really.
I hear
It's a
that
nice
a lot.
base.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from people where Atlanta was a work, a stop by, and people love it. Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially this time of year when it's not quite so hot and humid, but that it's a really fun city, great restaurants, and
Yeah.
just
It's great.
lots of
It's
great
really great.
sports, great music.
There's a lot to love in a lot of places in the world. And you're going to get, crappy weather in just about anywhere that you live at some part of the year. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things to love here. I love New York. We're really close to New York. We can fly up really
Yeah.
easily. It's nice. Yeah. So
Yeah.
here we are.
And
Fantastic.
the biggest Europe hub now, the biggest European
Yeah.
hub coming in and out of the US. So lots of great flights there too.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever traveled from Los Angeles or the Pacific coast to Europe, but
Yeah.
it's not great.
No,
It's
I
very
lived
hard
in
on
LA
the
my whole
That's
body.
life.
extraordinary. That's like going from the East Coast to Hawaii. Like
Yeah.
it's not. You're like you have to like gear up for that.
Right?
So
It's like, oh, we're going to London, but we've got 5 hours before we really even start from LA.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to talk about Peacemaker 2 and the second season. And, obviously that just premiered and just hearing your story a little bit.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be
So,
here.
one of the things that we do within Her Words is really understanding your story, how you kind of got into acting, what that's really looked like for you and your journey. So I guess why don't we start there in terms of like what gave you the acting bug, and the industry and
It's such a great question. I don't know what exactly it was. If I were to, be an armchair therapist about myself, I'd probably guess that one, I was a gymnast growing up. And so I got the sort of performance bug, I guess, when
Mhm.
I was young, that feeling of instant gratification that you get from, performing something that you have worked on for a long period of time and what that feels like. And then also, I didn't have the greatest childhood. And so I just wanted to get out of where I was. And I wanted to do something that was so far away from my family's life or anything, excuse me, that I had experienced growing up, and something that would take me far away, and that was this. So I think that's probably why I initially gravitated towards it. I did some theater when I was in, middle school and high school, and I got into the drama program when I was in high school. And we had a very small, very almost non-existent film program when I was in high school, where we were basically just making short silent films. I don't think they even had sound equipment, but so just kind of dipping my feet in that way. And So I moved out to California when I was 17, just after my 17th birthday ish. And I had met the person who would become my manager at this. They used to do these scouting events. I'm going to age myself because I don't think they do these anymore. It's sort of like a bunch of agents and managers from the industry in Los Angeles and New York and Atlanta and all these places around the country and the world sometimes would go and scout models and actors in different parts of the country. And that's how I initially met the person who became my manager. And I met them in Florida at a convention. They told me, you've got to come out by pilot season because pilot season used to be a thing. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys know about pilot
Well,
season, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really exist anymore.
I was going to say, of
But
all of our
actors,
interviews, I have not the scouting day has not come up in any of our interviews that we've done over the past like 3 years. Like nobody's brought that up. Pilot season, yes, and like the kind of the pattern, but yeah, I have not heard of scouting events to find managers and agents. That's wild.
well, when you're just a random person from some weird area
Yeah.
in the country and you have no connection whatsoever to the industry and you have absolutely no idea how to start. It used to be a way for you to go and get yourself in front of agents and they would come to you. Or it's sort of like the best way I can describe it is the way that like American Idol goes and scouts around the country. This is the same thing. It was these scouting events where agents and managers would go and they would find new talent all around the country, maybe the world. I don't even know if it was worldwide or not, but in any case, you would pay these companies to put you in front of all these agents and managers, and I think that's why it probably doesn't exist anymore. There's
mm,
probably some sort of weird gray area of legality there. I don't really know. Maybe it still does exist, and I'm just talking out
no, sure,
my
you're just
back
on
end.
YouTube.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it in a really long time. But in any case, this is how I met the person who would become my first manager, and also the person who was my first sort of LA acting teacher.
Okay.
He managed clients, but he also taught acting classes. Um, it was a good experience in some ways because I I got a sort of a deep um I dove deep like in head first into the industry with going to acting classes basically every single day of the week. And I was also doing like movement for actors, which is a certain type of a dance class that teaches you how to loosen up your body and these sorts of
Yeah.
things and doing all sorts of stuff like that. But the complication is that the management company was very problematic.
Mm.
And some people's experience there was that it was somewhat cult-like, and the person who ran the
Oh wow.
management company would sort of excommunicate people who left the company and tell you
Oh
that you
wow.
weren't to speak with those people if they left the management company and that sort of thing. And so it was a little odd in that way. And he had a way of getting to know you personally, and using your personal experiences and your very personal uh, emotional injuries in life and things like that against you while you were on stage acting, um in a way that ultimately didn't make me feel safe getting up and acting in
Yeah.
front of people. I started to get a lot of stage fright, which I didn't have early on. When I was young, I was
Oh my
just
goodness.
dumb and excited to get in front of
That's
people and do weird
crazy.
things. And so
Yeah.
it was an odd situation in that I think that all of the discipline that I have as an actor, learning to figure out a character's backstory and understand a character and the story from the depth that I do came from my foundation there, but also it was very complicated emotionally, to go through the experience of starting in that place. And it took me many
Yeah.
years to unlearn a lot of the fear aspects of what I had learned from that experience.
How did you take that first step back into it then? You know, in terms of having that fear, it's like sometimes it's like the first step, like how do you push yourself through it? Like what was that like to get yourself out of that place?
It was really hard. I went
Yeah.
after I was there, I went the first, acting class that I went to just so many acting classes after I left that
Yeah.
place, around Los Angeles. But the first place that I went to, was a place called Leslie Kahn Studio in
Okay.
Los Angeles, and the 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 weird thing about that place is that a lot of people will tell you it's somewhat like a cult as well because and I'll tell you why, it's very different. Because she is, you know, a friend of Bill's. She's a recovering alcoholic, and she runs her studio somewhat in the way that the program is run. And that's just, because it's I think it's something that she knows, and
Yeah.
so you take your shoes off when you get into the studio and you kumbaya and you sit on the floor a little bit. But the majority of what she teaches is unlearning everything that has complicated you as an actor and
Oh,
just
interesting. Okay.
having thoughts behind what you're saying and being truthful, and that's the basic gist of what she teaches. And so it was terrifying because I was doing all of the things I thought I knew about acting, and she was basically saying, no, stop it. You're doing too much. You're just say the line, just, have a thought and say the line. And it was and I'm simplifying, overly simplifying what she teaches, but that's the basic gist of what she teaches is this is not rocket science. Learn what the intention of the story and the intention of the character is and what is the character arc and yada yada. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, she kind of simplifies the process for actors, and I really appreciated it, but it was a little bit like being torn apart and being put back together again
Yeah.
because I had to really unlearn a lot of things that I had learned.
In terms of how you approach projects now in your characters, do you find that some of that still creeps back in and you have exercises to ground yourself again? Do you find, I find just in any
Yes.
career, in the conversations we have, you learn to manage things, right? Do they actually leave you? And how do you ground yourself and bring yourself back into yourself or, find that confidence? Do you still find that a little bit? And, do you have any tips for, our folks in terms of how you've kind of overcome some of that or how you deal with your grounding and
I think that this is such an odd thing to say maybe, but,
yeah,
one of the things I constantly remind myself is to relax my face. Um, because,
I love that.
I don't know,
But
I
it's
find
true,
that
it's true.
it helps you to ground yourself if you can, let go of whatever it is that you've planned or you're holding tension or whatever. I feel that that's one of the easiest ways as an actor in a scene to ground myself is to just go stop, let go of
Yeah,
all of those things and just be. um because really it's yes, it's acting is about planning and understanding and creating and all of these things, but then when you go to do it you just need to throw all that shit away, excuse my French,
yeah.
but you just need to throw it all away, and you need to be present with the other person or with yourself or whatever the scene asks of you. And so I think that also it's about sometimes it's about like when I right before I start working, grounding myself in the space, whether it's like noticing the sound of the air conditioning coming through the vent or noticing, the texture of something, the table in front of me or something like that. Just grounding yourself in the reality of where you are in the present, trying to just be present. I think, helps you to let go of all of the things that are clouding.
Do roles like Peacemaker where they're more physical and more action-packed, does that play a role in what you choose and what you say yes to? Is that something that helps in all of that of being present because you have to be so physical.
You mean the physicality? Does that draw me to a
Yeah,
role?
does that draw you to it, and does that is that a helpful in grounding because you like, your whole body is involved in what you're doing?
I would say in some ways, absolutely. I think that in that when you have some way to connect your body, to whatever it is that you're doing. And in this particular case with Peacemaker, um, that was through putting on some muscle mass, really, helping my body to feel like the character more and to
Mhm,
to look like someone who was capable of doing physically the things that I'm doing in the show. Um, it helps you because you don't have to try so hard to look tough or to look strong because you just already are, or to feel strong because you already are. So I think in a sense, yes, it's nice to have something about the role that you can physically ground yourself in. But I just love the opportunity to get to be physical in any role that I do. I would, if had I had the opportunity, continue to do action, um, forever, maybe, as long as my body will allow me to do it because I love, the I guess it's maybe it comes from my gymnastics training or something. I just love the additional request of me to be physical in that way. And it's a completely different thing than acting that you're doing. You're communicating the story in a completely different way. So, I mean, it's similar. It's just choreography. You're dancing with someone, really. That's what you're doing, and you're communicating something to the audience in a very different way.
What has it been like to be part of, like, the DC extended universe? Like, in terms of the role of Amelia and, what's that really looked like for you? How's that experience been? It's like, what's the ride been like for you?
Well, y my original entry into the universe, I mean, was before it was this particular DC universe was in, the Suicide Squad, and
Yeah.
for me, that was, basically, my husband asking me to come play on set, do kind of a nothing I don't mean to say it like that, role that ended up, getting, expanding a little bit because the role was basically just helping to propel the
Yeah.
story along, and he kept needing someone to help propel the story along as he was adjusting writing, that sort of thing. So he kept throwing my character a different, thing to do here or
Yeah.
there that he couldn't throw to one of the other characters in the
From
same
Black
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
And
followed you
so
through Black Adam and Shazam, right,
yeah.
correct?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
he basically at the end of sort of filming that, he was like, "Hey, let's call her Amelia Harcourt. It'll be fun for the fans when they see the credits roll." No one even calls my character Amelia Harcourt in the movie itself. Um, so just if you watch the credits in the Suicide
Yeah.
Squad, she's called Amelia Harcourt. And then we were in COVID. James was, editing the Suicide Squad, and he needed something more to do because he was bored and we were all quarantining, and so he decided to write Peacemaker, and he wrote my character Amelia Harcourt into the show, and I was totally surprised. I had absolutely no idea that he was going to plan to use her, and he didn't have any idea that he was going to plan to use her again. So it's been a pretty wild journey, and just getting to see how she expands, and how we get to explore her character more throughout the different, universe, the ways that we have unfolded in the universe has been really great. The Black Adam and Shazam really doesn't have anything to do with our universe at all. They needed someone to
Yeah.
tell pieces of the story when it was a different, sort of regime at the
Yeah.
company, and they couldn't get Viola Davis, I'm assuming, so they got me instead. And yeah, so I did those things, and they were really fun to do, but they just don't really have any connection to any of the story that we're
Yeah.
telling.
Yeah, that Peacemaker has. This Peacemaker is, I mean, it's obviously so successful. You're in season 2, but it's critically loved and fan loved. So how has that been for the whole kind of the whole crew or the whole team to experience? Because that in, in action films or in superhero, whatever you wanna call the different worlds, those don't always match up, but to be so critically acclaimed and so, audience loved is hitting both of them out of the park.
Well, I think it's just all that you can ask for. We love the show. We put our hearts and souls into it when we're doing it. And John Cena is so devoted to the show, and we all the entire cast and the crew, honestly, like, are so happy to be there, and they're putting everything into the show because they just believe it and they love it. And so you don't want to just be making something for yourself. You want it to translate to other people. You never know if that's actually going to be what happens or not. And so it's just a joy to get to see that, specifically for me personally, not that I'm not really a feminist in any way or anything like that. I just do really truly love when my character has spoken to a woman, um, whether they see a strength in her or they see, some similarity to themselves or something, and they come up to me and they say, thank you so much. I love your character. She's so strong, or whatever it is. When someone, it speaks to them in some way, it really means a lot to me. And it just, I can't tell you how hard it is to be a filmmaker and to release something, and for either it really both things, for either it to be a critical bomb or a pop popular bomb. It's either thing is excruciatingly painful, no matter who you are, because you've devoted potentially years of your
Mhm.
life to a project. And so it's a big sigh of relief at the end of the day.
I didn't know that it's so popular. Um, we mentioned the films that you've been a part of, and then this series on HBO. Process-wise, do you have a preference of working on something that's an ongoing series versus, something a film that has a start and a finish as far as storytelling with
In terms of storytelling, I mean, I think that almost anyone can see how much more depth you're able to accomplish when you do a series, because you have more time to spend with the characters. But there there are good things about both, really. I mean, the art of filmmaking is economizing, and so every single frame that you're using and every single scene has to really truly mean something to the story. And it's just not the same with a series. You can have a scene that's just fun where you're just sitting in the park with a person, and it's not going to make a difference because, you know, you've got so much time to tell a story. So it's just a completely different experience. I think that in terms of when you get the opportunity to play a character you love, I think playing that character in a series is probably more fulfilling because you get so much more time.
Mhm, mhm, you get to see where they're going, and
Yeah.
are there, or do you have any dream characters that you're hoping that you get to play?
Oh, wow. That's such a good question. I mean, I think that everyone asks me this question, and I would love to give a better answer than this. It's such a generic, terrible answer, but the truth is that I just want to keep working as an actress. It's really hard. It's really hard to get a job.
Mhm,
And that's really just because if you see the if you're an insider on what it's like to make a film or a TV show, what it's like to cast a character, it's really only usually one person. Like that, sometimes once in a while you'll be like, I could choose any of these three people and they'd be great. But most of the time, that the person who's making the film or the TV show sees the person that it's supposed to be for this character, and they're like, that's the person. And it's so hard to be that one person. It's like winning the lottery, and there's oftentimes nothing that you can do about whether you were the right person or not. It oftentimes does not come down to, are you a better actor than the other person? Yes, a lot of times all the people who are in the pool of people being considered all have to be really, really great actors. But there are tons and tons of great actors out there. There's so many of them. There's so many talented people who don't get jobs. There's just so many of them. And it's really hard to just be that one that's right for that character. And there are just not that many characters out there to play. There's not that many characters out there for women. There's not that many characters out there for women as you start to age. Like, it just gets harder and harder. And so truly, I just would love to continue acting in well-written projects, working with people who are really passionate about what they do.
No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer.
I
Jennifer, it's
feel
been
like it's very
so nice.
generic.
No, no, it's been
It's
so nice
not.
to meet you, and we're so excited about Peacemaker. And is John Cena, is he as nice and funny as everyone says he is? They say he's such a nice guy to work with.
He's incredibly nice, incredibly funny person. I think that you'd be surprised by how serious of a person he is if you met him, just because he's incredibly thoughtful. He's always focused on bettering himself in some way, self-improvement. He looks at what he can improve about himself all the time. And he's always learning a new skill. He's always like playing the piano or learning a different language or something. So he's much more thoughtful and deep thinking than you probably would imagine he would be. But he's also very funny and very just one of the best people I've ever worked with in my life. Always
Oh, no.
prepared,
Oh, that's
just wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah, amazing. He's one of my favorite, like, behind the scenes stories. I don't know why I always find myself reading or listening to one if it's about him over time. I don't know. He always just seems to be really interesting. But
He's
Jennifer,
a
thank you
really
so
interesting
much.
guy.
We're excited about
Of
Peacemaker. We
course.
want this to keep going. We love seeing you. It's been so nice meeting you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank
It's really
you.
nice chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to In Her Words. We hope you'll join us at womeninentertainment.com and go to our Substack for extended interviews and behind the scenes access.